And I was just asking as people start coming in, and Jane is warming up there.
Warming
what
up.
are you, she's warm up already, actually. What are your something you want to share before then you might inspire Jane to tackle your problem with social media? What's social media for you today? Let's see. Let's start with Elizabeth. That's she's hiding today, just when we're checking that she's there.
I'm probably spending too much time on social media and not using it in a focused way, because it does have its purpose. So it's, I'm probably filling time while looking at social media instead.
Okay, so let's see what Jane can advise us on how we can use social media better, because she does know how to do that.
Yes, to know the theory is often easier than the practice.
So not only the theory, you know, the practice, because when you wrote your book that I have here, the book here, you do a lot of research. I know that.
Yeah, and I had to be very focused to get my book written too.
You have to get refocused. That is true.
Yeah.
So I'm muting everybody. I don't know why people are coming unmuted, but so Marcus, do you want to share anything? Is your issue? Well, I know personally.
Don't tell anybody, okay?
Yeah, it's a secret.
But you can share by yourself.
I apologize for my dress first. I'm coming from the gym.
Oh, very good. Good to hear.
What I find interesting is the principle. However, when I haven't used Facebook, for instance, for at least 3 years, and I must say, I'm not really convinced anymore that this is the way. I think many people have to turn to what we are doing right now, to more frequent interactions with content. And what I observe now is that when you really search, at least this is my experience, that it is sometimes very flat. There seems to be a lot of hollow things. And I sometimes in the evening, I think, what did you do on Facebook today? And even on LinkedIn, I expected more activity, more initiative.
To get done.
Things, to know things, to do things. I mean, there are people who sign into something and you never see them again. Today I had somebody in LinkedIn who asked me, can we connect? And I said, oh, of course. Why do you want to connect with me? I asked, and the guy never answered. And I find this very strange, because it's the basics of, I would even think, old-fashioned. I'm 65 now. I would even think it is only polite to answer a question, no matter what question you have.
Especially when you ask to connect. So it doesn't really make sense. And it's interesting that I will mute you now, Marcus, to avoid echo, because I was really talking about this with Jane before we got here. You started arriving, exactly this. I have a particular group, which I'm not going to name it. And there's a good number of ladies there, about 150 ladies. And I've been trying to make these ladies to move, to do something. And you know me, the ones who know me, I'm not a person that is static. I'm always doing something. And I keep receiving requests to join that group, and I still could not get that group move take off. So I don't know. Let's ask Johan now. Johan, I know you, I give you here a little bit of opening floor for you, because Johan is create Ant Nest and definitely, I know that behind one of your core ideas is to avoid exactly what we are mentioning here, right? That it's because your platform is by invitation only. So if I invite someone that I know that's going to be proactive.
Yeah. Very much so. I mean, this is part of why I created Antnest, right? So I think we all realize social media is here to stay, but we're all upset about how it's working today. Exactly what we've all said already. I mean, there's not enough human interaction. It's not trustworthy. There are millions of profiles out there. And how can you trust that the person behind really is the person on the profile picture? So that's why I created Antnest, which is a trusted social media for the entrepreneurship ecosystem. People who want to create their own future. And it's about taking action. The action heroes of today are the entrepreneurs. The entrepreneurship is the future of work. And we need to work it from the bottom up and make people realize that we can't go ahead with this monologue that we're seeing everywhere. We have to create dialogue, and we have to have dialogue between trusted people and across the different silos. So that is what Antnest is doing on the individual level primarily, of course, also into organizations, but so trust, accountability, and real value sharing. I think social media has also set a very dangerous precedence in the fact that sort of free is good, but free is never free. And no entrepreneur can survive on free. We are all offering so much for free. And I think a much better way would be fair pay is fair play. So that is the motto within Antnest, right?
I like this. Fair play is a fair pay. It's a good one.
Yeah.
And the point you made there, I mentioned that in my last webinar, because everything's a trade. There's not such a free thing.
No, exactly.
So if I'm giving my time here, Jane is giving her time here. Let's be open. And because she wants you to know her, what she does, and maybe one of you will be interested in her services. So fair enough that she is here giving her time to us. So, and this is a language also that I've been preaching this, and I want to bring here to everybody, because we have to change this mindset of rejection when someone makes an offer, when we are expecting everything for free. Now, before we get to Jane, you're collecting a lot of information.
I am. I'm arranging my speech and my question answers and my
exactly. So I would love to hear from Joelle, because you're new to me. Welcome to our Monday talks.
Yes, it's a pleasure to be with you.
So tell us a little bit, because we are about to start, just what is your experience with social media?
I think after what Johan was saying, there's not much we can add. I'm using, obviously, social media for connection within my extended family. My wife is Malaysian, so we have friends all over the world. And I have my own team groups. Maybe it's not the best tool, but so there's a couple of captive audience. But I made the experience I was trying to create for my worldwide group campaign to get some a sizable group. So I got about 2,000 fans, followers, mostly in Facebook chose for me, Nigeria and Kenya. And although I offered like free coaching to people, they didn't even take it. So I'm like, what is that? I mean, it's very easy to get a big number, but there's no discussion. There is nothing happening at all. So I made some fairly good example in LinkedIn, entering in a dialogue. That's a sales method I learned about commenting into people's topic, and that works well. It's like, wow, Tulia, amazing what you say. Maybe I add a little bit, but that's a real discussion. The daily messages about everybody who wants to sell me IT and whatever, you name it, is not the best part of my day.
We are all facing this overload of information that it's just a repetition of,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go a bit faster. Dorleta, welcome, lady. Today we see your face. So just share with us. Oh, I just turned you, unmute you. Unmute now.
It's okay.
Okay. So
Hi.
Hi. So what I would share briefly with us, what has been your issues, your struggle, your experience with social media?
Social media is something that you love and you hate. I believe it's something that we have an addiction from it. I believe most of it, especially younger children, but we always point at the children, really, to tell you the truth. We are all addicted in some way or another. We're addicted to a quick fix of information. So from one part, I don't like social media. It's this love-hate passion thing because I feel attractive because I can get more information. However, it kills my time and I cannot use it properly. Social media from my work, so I have different kind of jobs. With my main job, I am working from a software automotive industry called Electrobit, which is a German company and is known worldwide. There I am a trainer for trainers. So I train my colleagues, so the engineers and developers, in soft skills. That's one of the things I do. I do other things. I deliver training too. So this is one of my things. And I realize it that nowadays, more and more, the companies are using social media to try to sell their products, to try to sell their services. And the fact is that I know that now I have different kind of workshops that I deliver in my company. And one of them is going to be delivered in LinkedIn because they're trying to catch new customers to then trying to sell it. So kind of webinars, a workshop, they sell webinars. And so this is the attraction that I see, okay, if my company can do it, in my other job as a personal coach that I am, and I help a lot of people, even voluntary, because I have a passion for public speaking and leadership. I think like, wow, if a big international companies can use really smart the social media, why cannot us, the small fish, if you want to call it in some way, can try to use it the same way? The thing is, I have a team in my company that, marketing takes care of this, and I don't know what they have been doing until they came to me and asked me, hey, next month you have to deliver a webinar. And I said, okay, I prepare it. But what they have done until that offer came to me, for my part, is what I would like to know. Because I use social media for a quick fix of quick information, not really focus. And I would like to know, how can I do that?
A strategy behind, and I think it's important for us as entrepreneurs, small business owners, is how we can still use social media without having to pay enormous amount for ads, because ads right now are, for you to really, from what I know, for you to really get the, let's say, the benefit from what you pay, to receive the benefits from what you pay, you really have to pay a lot of money, and thinking about 4 or 5 figures beyond. Okay, so let's go to Matilda, and then we get Jane into the spotlight. So Matilda, nice to seeing you here again. Go briefly now, Matilda. I know you can do it because you're German. Not Dorleta, she's Spanish, so it's impossible, but you can do it. Go fast.
No problem. I'm just using social media, not for business, but for Toastmasters and connecting with them all around the world. And many of them I really meet in person in some meetings. And it's for me more for getting to know where you can go when.
Yeah.
Back to you. So for me, it's fun.
Girl. That's my girl. That was good one. Okay. Okay, so guys, thank you so much. I think we can get started. If someone comes up, I'm monitoring here. And I can see there's some conversation here already happening. That's awesome. So this is a topic, is a hot topic for all of us, because we know we cannot live without it anymore. Loving it or hating it, we can't. So the best is to try to take the most of it without being swallowed by it, because that is the way I feel sometimes. And here we have the expert. Welcome, Jane.
Welcome, thank you. It's lovely to be here, Tulia.
Lovely to have you, because I know Jane for many years from Zurich. She's based in Zurich, but she's a New Zealander with this lovely accent. And Jane is a psychologist. I will read her bio properly. And she has been focusing on that for the past few years, and she wrote the book. I'll show the book again. You should get this book. And then that's it. Let's take advantage of Jane. What I'm going to do here. So let me just kick off now. Jane Piper. She's an organizational psychologist and best-selling author of Focus in the Age of Distraction, a book looking at the impact of digital technology on our well-being and ways of working. She is interested in the intersection of humans and technology. She challenges us to look at the impact that technology is having in our work and non-working lives, well-being, and happiness. She grew up in New Zealand and has been living abroad for many years, most recently for 15 years in Switzerland, bringing a unique blend of Kiwi creativity and Swiss efficiency. She combines writing, speaking, consulting, and coaching on topics of careers, collaboration, and culture. After a 20-year corporate career, she now helps people and organizations to work better in a digital age. Welcome. The floor is yours, Jane.
Yes.
So I'm not going to ask you any question now.
I
but you have plenty from what people told you. Can you
it is an amazing amount of material, and is definitely starting from, I think, with what both Johan and Marcus talked about, and then you talked about, Tulia, this challenge that 90% of people who are on social media are called lurkers. They are just watching what is happening rather than actually engaging in social media. So on one side, you know, we see this, there's an incredible volume of people there, but what are they actually doing, and how do you actually get involved with people in a way that you're actually forming some connection rather than just being large numbers of connectivity. You know, there's connectivity there, but you're not actually connecting with people. Because social media does have a lot of benefits. I mean, Matilda, she recognized that, you know, it's a lot easier. I mean, I still have a drawer of business cards, and thank goodness, you know, LinkedIn comes along, because I never got around to organizing them in some way. And you have those old Rolodexes. I mean, from that point of view of keeping in touch with people, where have they moved to, where have they changed to, how can I get in touch with them? I mean, something like LinkedIn is absolutely wonderful. But it seems to have now been taken over by a way, as you say, there's a number of things which I don't like. I'm going to start with just two of them, because one is this shallowness. Because everybody just scrolls through social media, what happens now is you have to have bite-sized content and clickbait headlines, and everything has to be able to be written in 281 characters in a tweet. So we no longer debate the real issues anymore about things. We just put out sensational things to catch people's attention. And, you know, Dorletta talked about, how am I going to be using this as a business person? You end up falling into the same trap of making very extravagant claims in your headlines to get people to click on it, to putting lots of hashtags in which are irrelevant but will attract people, to putting people in, you know, so that they will comment on it and things, and you play this sort of game on social media. And the reason that you do that is because you, social media has actually been designed to try and attract and pull people, and they keep changing the algorithms to make it like that. So for a while, you could set up a private group in LinkedIn, sorry, not LinkedIn, and Facebook, for example. And with that, you could connect with people in your network, and they were all working very well. Then Facebook decided it would change its algorithm because it wanted more paid advertising, and basically those groups died. And, you know, so those posts that was coming from those groups absolutely fell away. So every time you sort of find a way where you might be able to do something at the low cost end of actually promoting yourself on social media, then they find a way that we can get people there. So their aim is obviously to get people on their platform for longer, and to get them what's been paid for in advertising enough up there, not so much that you get put off, you know, because then it ends up like your letterbox is absolutely full of junk mail, and you just pull the junk mail out and you toss it straight in the bin. Instead, so they need to keep a certain amount of feed and keep you interested enough, but basically it's trying to keep the advertising dollar coming in. So it's designed basically to pull you in, and then they're trying to change your behavior. So that's where the addiction piece comes in, and how easy it is for us just to spend so much time on social media, because it's basically designed to keep pulling you back. If you're a driver, or anybody, you know a stop sign. It's red with white writing and a white circle around it. Now think of a notification that comes on your social media telling you that you've got new likes or shares or whatever social media. They're always the same as a stop sign. Now a stop sign was designed, you know, social scientists went into labs and worked out, you know, what's the most thing that attracts people's attention the most. So that let's make that the stop sign because it's really important from a safety point of view. Then it's been borrowed by people who are now designing these apps. Mm-hmm. And it's the same with many of these pieces of behavior that you see. We love social connection. We're social animals. And so the whole platforms are aimed to try and get that social recognition. How many likes have I got? How many shares have I got? How many people have, you know, has my post gone viral? And it's using exactly the same principles as it does in a casino. Perhaps my post will go viral. You know, I better just go and have a look there. And then all of a sudden you're scrolling through and you're finding yourself spending more time there. You've gone down a well. They feed you information. The algorithm feeds you information which is similar. They know you like it because you've looked at it before. So of course you're going to be more and more interested in it. It's not like a newspaper that had to print a range. I mean, when I used to buy a newspaper, I threw away the sports section because I'm not particularly interested in sport. Of course, social media has worked out not how to do that. If I'm not interested in sport, I never see something about sport. So it definitely changes the way it keeps us going back. It keeps us there, and it keeps changing all the time, and it keeps trying to basically, let's think, manipulate our behavior.
Mm.
So,
and Jane, I believe here we are all adults.
Yes.
So in a way, we can sit aside and have this conversation here that we are having. And I, for one, I never have my phone close to me. Even I say to people, don't try to call it to find me through my phone, because you'll never find me because I don't know where my phone is. But send me a message and then we set a time to talk. And that is even my business card, there's no number there. And I did that on purpose. I don't want to be accessible all the time, because I don't think this is effective, and I'm not that important. So let's be honest. But younger generation, where I see I have not that young, but I have a nephew and a niece, 18 and 15, which my sister is very restricted, and she has a very specific rule to control them on how they use social media. And we know about social media addiction. I saw a horrible video. I don't know, it was circulating. Was recorded in an airplane where this teenager freaked out for 8 hours flight, screaming. She was about 15 because she could not use her phone. She could not find her phone. And her mother was there without knowing what to do. Okay, so here leads to my question, which is the addiction. And that can lead to depression. And this here, Marcus would love to get into it, because the topic of burnout, right? That is so much happening right now, and the connection of all of this, that because we see this feeling of that it's never enough. I had my moment last night, that you all of a sudden you see a post of someone and you think like, oh, I'm not doing enough. I'm not reaching my goals. And thank God I have the man beside me and saying, I don't want to say, calm down, calm down. But if you're alone, or if you don't have anybody around you, or if you have people that think the same, this can drive you completely nuts.
Yeah.
What are you saying on that?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, social comparison. Comparison, you used to be able to look at your neighbors and say, oh, they're driving a nicer car, they've got a bigger house, or whatever the case. Now it's possible, two things. It's possible to do the social comparison worldwide around. And secondly, the lives that we put up there on social media are, of course, not very real in most cases. We put up only our best photos. I mean, I do a lot of cycling, and if you look on my Facebook feed, you'll see a lot of photos of cycling. But of course, I don't post the photos of biking in the rain, because, you know, that A, wouldn't look nice, and B, you know, the camera would get wet. But other people manufacture that even more, that, you know, there's a photo of them on a beach or whatever, you know, they're always doing. And what you see now, you know, these Instagrammable moments where people are so busy looking at the scenery that they trip over their own feet, looking at the scenery through the camera lens, that, you know, they trip over their own feet and don't even notice whatever else is happening around them. So this fear of missing out, the social comparison. Addiction is often, however, I think it's one of those clickbait things that attracts attention if I talk about social media. And your story, you talked about this girl who was, you know, absolutely freaking out because she couldn't be on social media for 8.5 hours. I mean, I think often with any addiction, and Marcus can back me up or on this or not if he wants to, but any addiction, there's usually some cause that underlies it in addition. You know, whether it's drugs or alcohol or something, you're usually trying to escape from something else. Now with social media, I think the interesting thing is we can be just escaping from boredom. And Elizabeth mentioned that, you know, she said it's very easy, you know, for myself, for example, it's very easy to jump on the tram around Zurich, you know, and just sit there and scroll your way through. And you have to ask yourself, is that really using the time well spent? So it's just a way of avoiding something. So when we look at, you know, the time we spend on social media, there's one thing where I was talking about, you know, what attracts us to come to the social media, the way it's designed, but also what are we running away from? And those are the two questions to ask yourself. What am I trying to avoid? I'm trying to avoid doing some work I really don't want to do. I'm trying to avoid being bored on the tram and just stare out the window, where actually perhaps it might be a nice idea to just stare out the window. What am I, and then it's got all the tools which attract you to go in there and get stuck in there and stay in there. So think about addiction from the two sides. What is it? What are you avoiding? And what's attracting you there? And why is it attracting you there? And then you can look at both sides of it. And one can be, maybe there's on this attraction side, people that you just don't need in your network anymore. And on this other side, if you're doing it because, well, you know, I really should be doing something else, but, you know, it's a bit easier just to scroll that, you know, what's this goal setting and motivation? Why do you really not want to do that task, or what are you avoiding? Yeah.
I have one question here for you, which is now with the situation we are living right now, with the corona now, we've seen a sudden dramatic change in the way we work and live. We are more here all the time, overwhelmed, like even like there's now the Zoom fatigue terminology.
Zombies instead of zombie.
You zombie, you zoomed out, you zoomed whatever, right? Yeah. And people are working from home, homeschooling, keeping in touch with family and friends when we are not able to meet face to face. Okay. So why is it important to manage our time online in these times? What would you say? Well,
I mean, it's obviously it's really important to keep in touch, and you've got relatives overseas also, and I can hear from the accents of people here exactly the same. And you couldn't have seen people, you couldn't have kept in touch face to face and with people without this technology of creating these. But it's a different experience to create a one-on-one conversation with somebody, to hear about that, than some of the other things which happen about social media. And what I think the most dangerous thing about social media in the coronavirus times is that it has actually encouraged people to do things which have spread the disease. So one of the things is there's a huge number of myths which are going around there, that the Wuhan biological authority there created the myth in a lab and let it out, that 5G is spreading coronavirus, and therefore people went and set fire to 5G towers. And then they get even more crazy than that. There was in India that drinking cow urine would cure you of that. It wasn't helped by certain politicians who suggested that, you inject yourself with disinfectant and things. There was so much spread out there. And what's interesting is that what a researcher I just read today, which is really interesting, that 56% of the people who believe that coronavirus is a myth, it's just been made up. It's a complete myth. They don't believe in it at all. Of the people that believe that, which unfortunately is not a huge amount of the population, but 56% of those people get their news from social media. They no longer read reputable sources like, even if it's online, a newspaper anymore, or watch the national television. The only way they get their news is from social media. And you might think, it's some, bunches of unintelligent people who are like that.
No, exactly.
But it's surprising that, especially as you go into the younger generations under the age of 35, a much higher proportion of people under the age of 35 get their news from Facebook, and then go down into the even younger generations and they get their news from other sources like here in Zurich, Watson and things like that. They don't get their news from reliable sources, and then that has led, in this case of coronavirus, to actually increasing some of these problems about social distancing and hygiene and things like that. That's the danger I see with social media and how we need to watch that. The second one is, as we were talking about, that it's sheer volume. The sheer volume is overwhelming. You're getting so much negative news, especially when we started off, and it's just coming in and in and in. And then if you sit there, of course you want to be informed, but the longer you spend on reading this doom and gloom scenario, of course it affects your mind. And the dangerous thing is the more negative information, our minds are already predisposed to go for negative information over positive information. You'll know that, if you have had a performance review, you got feedback, your boss has given you 10 positive things you've done and one negative thing, you'll remember that one negative thing for the rest of your life, and you will have forgotten those 10 positive things that he or she said. And it's the same as, you get all this negative news, our brain is and it just brings people down. And so the World Health Organization were basically saying, limit your time. So in coronavirus time, keep the connection with people, use these tools to really connect with people, but don't get your news from social media, and don't spend too long trolling through that news and getting depressed. So that would
I
be
think one problem is I see that people just is kind of forward things without, you have the emotion, you receive something that can be like sensational, like, and then you say, ah, and for the good and for the bad, but then you say, oh, too, and you share. Now we know that, and then you receive because you trust me, and then you say, oh, and share, and that's. And I've been receiving, in terms of the corona, certain videos, because, you know, in my country is a disaster right now. And some people, because they are there, I am one, I have some rage of towards what's happening there. So everything that comes to me, I really have to breathe in, breathe out, and then read it and reasoning about it, because there's lots of information that comes without any source information, and all these people who you don't know who they are, they don't identify themselves, and they are talking as if they have authority on whatever they are talking. So
I mean, it's very easy to do. People believe things if it's repeated often enough, even if it's not true. So you repeat something 3 times to somebody and they will believe it even if it's not true. So I could stand here and say to you, you know, Tulia has pink hair. And I'll say that 3 times through this meeting and somebody will believe it. It's not quite that, you know what I mean? But we do believe things if you see and hear them often enough. The other one is, you know, basically add a photo next to it. It'll make it more credible. Put the photo of usually an older man wearing a white coat, and all of a sudden he's a credible scientist. And all these things will make a story, and then it just gets spread around and around and around. And, you know, journalism, I mean, it gets a lot of negative publicity, and they've cut back journalists, but the good ones, they do have a role in actually checking those facts before they put it out there. And we should value that, and comes back to Johan's point. We should value that and be prepared to pay for that. Because at the moment, it seems like we can get so much news for free. That seems like a great deal. It's not. It's doing your head in, and it's feeding you nonsense. You know, it's not worth your time. I mean, I would strongly say, you know, spend half an hour less a day reading Facebook and pay for some good quality journalism, or find some quality sites. I can share with you a list of what I call quality sites to get news from. You know, you can still get them for free if you want, but, you know, BBC and other sites for that, you know, and fill your head with something useful. Are you learning something? Are you, you know, not just somebody else's cat video or favorite quote of the day, you know?
Yes, that's true. And I would like to ask you about your book briefly. But before, I just want to ask if anyone has a question, because Marcus wrote here, why then video? Why not just phone? Overload of input. And I don't exactly know what you want to know, Marcus.
I just wanted to remark that maybe this constant additional information we got face to face, like here, it was desirable when I was young. I wish I would have had this way of communication. But for me, it is simply too much. And tomorrow we have our next Toastmaster meeting. I will be the Toastmaster of the evening. And I know it's going to exhaust me, because I will be staring at this screen for 1.5 to 2 hours. And what for? This is the question I'm asking. I'm happy we have this, because it saves us a lot of time to go to the place and go back. So we factually spare some minutes. But all the video, all the backgrounds you see, I'm sitting here embarrassed, I must say, because I'm sitting in the kitchen, because Tulia is in our office. So this is not my place here, in the sense of showing to the outside how I live, you know?
Yeah.
So it is something, doing something wrong for what?
Yeah.
Do I really need the video, which is fantastic, but do I really need it? Or is it, this afternoon I had a conversation by phone of a friend of ours. We have everything accessible, but we were on the phone for 1.5 hours because it was simply enough.
Yeah, this zoomed out, and everybody's using this as a new phrase. One of the reasons is because you're trying to use what you would have seen face to face to read people's expressions and get their social cues, that we instinctively do that because that's what we would have done face to face. And we're trying to do that, but through this screen, you're so much more limited. And that's why when we see television, actors act, they have to overdo the expressions so that we can read what they are. And so this creates this extra stress and reading people's expressions and things. And, there's a whole line of people up there on the screen and you're trying to see who's, is Matilda still shining? What's Johnny? Looks, he's a tiny little picture, but, the corner of his mouth is a bit down or something like that, and you're trying to do this in a way which is harder than what you might do, especially you can imagine the Toastmaster situation, you're giving that presentation out to a crowd. Of course, you can see some few people and are they reacting, but you get a general feeling, but you can't get the same feeling. So I agree that sometimes we are overusing this technology now, and sometimes it would be more relaxing just to have a nice chat to somebody without seeing their face, the same way that, you could, and how would I compare it? That you could have gone out for lunch with somebody and you don't feel like you're on show having a nice chat over lunch. A cup of coffee type thing. It's a different feeling, and people in that sort of safer space. As you say, it doesn't feel so safe to be exposing whoever potentially sees this, what the colour of your tea towels are in your kitchen. They're very nice, by the way.
You're very kind. I'm going to have a conversation about that background there. Anyways, it could have been better. So, Jane, let's talk, because I don't want this to extend much more about 1 hour, but we started at like 15 minutes late, so that's okay. We have 15 minutes. I want to, of course, your book focus on in the age of distraction is very much current, but you wrote it a few years ago. Mm-hmm. And I would like to ask you, what was the thing that clicked that you said, I want to talk about this topic?
Yeah, because at the time it wasn't such a huge topic as it is now. But what I was seeing in many workplaces is that basically we've introduced the technology, basically this telephone, that allowed people to be on 24/7. And people who grow up in, if I can sort of say my generation, you can see I'm a bit over 35, quite a lot over 35. We grew up with this Protestant work ethic that we had to be working our hardest and working our best and always there and super responsive to everybody. The phone came along and we got not so much addicted to perhaps the social media side of it, but addicted to being shown that we were to all our other people available and answering and responding quickly. And the general level, as we talked about, the huge levels of high information and information overload, then the two things combined were leading to high levels of stress leading to high levels of burnout, and we're seeing more burnout in the workplace. And this started to worry me because I saw really good people, basically, once some people have been seriously burnt out, never reaching back to the level of high performance they were. And I thought, work is killing them. Or work has killed them in some way, even if it's killed their spirit for them mentally, even if it didn't sort of physically do anything. And that was a thing that prompted me to say, we have to rethink about how we work and how we work with this technology. Do it better.
And do you think, because this can be a conversation for next Monday. But yesterday I read an article which was I got it through my feed through a friend, and it was very interesting. This lady called Cindy Gallop, and she was kind of predicting for 2037. And one of the things she said was that we will interact with social media in a different way. She owns a advertisement company, okay? And which she said that we will then not feel that we have to be in all the platforms, but we will learn by them how to use technology better, meaning choose the one that suits you, that really serves you, and master it and take the best of it. What do you feel about that?
I think we are seeing a shift, and that people are realizing that they need to manage how they use social media, and it is already something that, you know, my 11-year-old niece in New Zealand was telling me about. They do a digital, I can't quite what it's called, but a course on basically teaching them how to be intelligent about not believing every rubbish that they see on the social media. And at 11, she knew to check 2 sources and things. So we will definitely go through a phase that we learn how to use it and manage it better. At the same time, I see a lot of, you know, AI will actually improve some of that. So at the moment, I'm sure, I don't know so much about social media. Well, you add the social media channels. At the moment, you know, you might have 3 or 4 different email addresses. You've got Facebook messages. You've got LinkedIn messages. In the future, it's not too far away that AI will combine all them together. And already, if you use Google Gmail, it suggests answers for you. And it will start answering mails. Oh, this one's from your mother, so damn, get on and answer it straight away. And I'm not, this one's another inquiry about ABC. We're away there, but that's where I see AI taking us, is basically it will try and condense certain things into one place, and it will be able to respond for us. However, we still need to be in control of what is responded. It takes a long time to learn that. So while it's not too far away, any of you who've ever tried Siri or Alexa will know that it's still not going to be tomorrow that we get this level of technology.
Yeah, because the fact is, we're talking about social media only, but what we experience now with the COVID, we all are transitioning to the next normal, which we still don't know exactly how it's going to look, but definitely will be digital, like strongly digital. We will have, I would say, your hybrid businesses, many of us, but but we will have a strong part of our business that's going to be digital. So we cannot just reject it. I think it's a process of learning, but a conscious learning of not just swallowing everything and becoming more critical about and trying to understand more what's available and why that could be an option for me or not. And I have here a comment from Johan, and where he says, do you see a need to try and drive change to social media, as so many of us are upset about their behavior? And if so, drive change how? That's not easy. This is a policy you're asking, Johan.
But it's a very good question. And I won't go into long detail on it, but you know, in New Zealand, there was a case where a guy who spent his entire life on social media went and shot 51 Muslim people in New Zealand. And it was found, and he streamed that all on social media. After that, the New Zealand Prime Minister, she got a meeting with, you know, Mark Zuckerberg and the head of LinkedIn and blah, 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 blah. They all agreed to do something. And what I'm seeing is, not a lot happened after that, let's be honest. But what I am seeing now, for the first time, Twitter are starting to take down posts which are clear coronavirus myths. For the first time, they stopped some of Trump's tweets, which were wrong. And so they are starting in a light way. But I still see the biggest thing that happened is when the Cambridge Analytica scandal started, is so many people just stepped away from Facebook and said, I'm having absolutely nothing to do with it. And if more people had had the courage to do that, then change would have happened. And that's what it takes. It takes this bottom up and this top down change to force it to change. And what talks to these people? I mean, let's be honest, the Facebooks of the world, they make millions of dollars in advertising. And so I think the other change that can start to come in is the advertisers say, we're not going to advertise on a platform like that. Yeah, and so that then starts putting pressure from 3 different angles on it. So bring the government in, and they start policing and managing this in a more effective, better way. So we have to have it from all sort of 4 of the big stakeholders around there. Managing it, they managing it themselves, the consumers, or the I suppose we're not consumers, but our reactions, the advertisers' reactions, and governmental reactions.
Yeah,
to some of that. Yeah.
It's complex, isn't it?
It's complex. It's one of those big problems. But I mean, I think they created the genie out of the bottle. I mean, it didn't used to exist, and now we're starting to see the consequences of totally unregulated playing field there, unlike anything else that we've ever put out there. There's never been anything else which is just so unregulated. You know, television didn't come in, however long television's been in place 60 years ago, and be totally unregulated, that just anybody could put content up there.
Yeah, that's a big thing. Just a short break here, saying that to everyone, I posted here a link to a survey that Jane gave to me. Is like, if you want to check how you're using social media, if you're doing it wisely, or if you're really addicted and without knowing. So that's a hope there for you, because Jane for sure can help you on that. And I would like to wrap up. Jane, I think this conversation, we should have it again. Maybe we set to catch up again by the end of the year to see what happens, and then where everybody can share the experience, what happened to them throughout the year. I think it's a great idea, because it's a great topic. And thank you so much for sharing all your wisdom, and all of you as well for asking your questions and sharing your experience. So before we allow Jane to go, because she's in the middle of something, it's about for you to go, right? Any last burning questions, and then I will release. Just raise your hand. Who? Anyone?
Yeah, Matilda.
Matilda. That's okay. I'll mute you, Matilda.
Are you having a specific cycle to clean up your social media contacts? I mean, are you getting through them and then you say once a year, okay, I get rid of this and those people because there was no exchange or something like this?
I don't do that. And yeah, mainly because I say there's some people that I haven't been in touch with for over a year. I mean, they might have been people I went to university with, having lived in so many different countries, but I would still keep in touch with them. The people who I do get rid of is anybody who then comes straight to advertise to me. So I've always had a policy of I'll accept anybody's connection, but if the next message they send me is, would you like to buy this, 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 or this, that's gone. Or the ones that I don't know whether you get them, that you get told you have beautiful eyes and that God meant us to be together, they pretty much get blocked as well. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Those ones.
You know, so, you know, that's the way I deal with it, is that, but I wouldn't get rid of people who I genuinely have known that who just haven't been in touch with them for over a year, because that would include old friends from university and people I worked with in New Zealand, but it's, you know, we just haven't had a reason to be, but I'm still, it's good to have them, shall we say, in the new version of the Rolodex business card file.
Okay. Yes, I have something here for you as Jane generously, as if it's okay for me to pass your email to her, she will send you the ebook.
Yeah, the e-version of the book.
If you want to say okay, it's okay. You thumbs up. Can I pass your email to her, to everybody? Okay.
And Marcus is asking, these old friends are real friends. Well, I don't know how do I say whether old friends are real friends, but let's say old friends are people I actually knew.
Yes. Yeah. So, Jane, thank you so much. I really enjoyed it, this conversation, because it's something that we face daily, and we all have our feeling of guilt of not managing the social media. Let's do the survey and see what is the reality there, what we get. And thank you for being here with us, and all of you. Thank you so much for coming to our Monday talks, and we continue. You continue.
And it's lovely to have met you all. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.